Hello. It has been a minute since you guys have seen my face. I really haven't been filming. I haven't been editing. I've been focusing on like TikTok and yeah, a lot's been happening and obviously I have long hair. I will go back and upload the other videos of like things that I have filmed and I'm gonna edit, but you guys, I just like hate editing so much. But I just wanted to like sit down and give you guys kind of an update on like what the hell has been happening in my life. And it's been some good things, it's been some crazy things, but yeah, life has been lifing and today is Halloween and I think the last video I uploaded was like from 3 months ago and it was previous footage of me during like my double mastectomy and all of those things. And so yeah, so it's been a while, so let me give you an update. Okay, so as you know, I look very different. I look like I'm back to myself. I feel like I'm back to myself. This is the best I've felt since I started treatment, which is the best feeling, knowing that like, I don't know, I just feel like good again. I feel sexy, I feel healthy, but I am still in treatment. I have my 7th Kadcyla treatment today, actually. I have to be at the hospital in less than an hour. And today marks the halfway point of treatment. So I have 14 rounds of that, so I'll be done in March. So today is number 7. Whoa! But yeah, I've started dating again, and that's really why I turned on the camera to kind of talk about dating and like what's been going on. I think as a young person, it's so hard navigating cancer because when I was diagnosed, like I was at the peak of my career. I was dating, I was wanting all of like the things to settle down and have a relationship, and I just felt like cancer was like the thing that kind of pulled the rug out from underneath me. And so it's hard processing that, and it's hard knowing how to like fully navigate the world of like life and being in treatment. And as I get closer to the end date of being out of treatment, it still feels weird. Like I feel like I'm in like this cancer purgatory in a sense, where it's like I have one foot in treatment and one foot in the real world, and I am trying to navigate that the best way possible. And I'm just like filming everything because I know if I feel this way, there are thousands and thousands of other women feeling this way. So like, why not share these feelings that I have? But yeah, like one topic that I've become like really interested in is like the sexual health of women going through breast cancer or any type of like hormonal cancer. When you're diagnosed, they don't tell you anything. They don't tell you like, okay, like this is going to be not just like a year and a half of treatment, but like this is going to affect you for like the next 10 years. And like when you have a cancer that grows on hormones, they essentially have to stop all the hormones in your body. And like I am left feeling like a menopausal 50-year-old woman in a 33-year-old's body. And when you are wanting to be in a relationship or you're in a relationship, and regardless of what age you are, like when you're in a relationship, like sex is very important. And I haven't been dating, but I still want my body to feel like dating is a possibility. And so I shared it on TikTok, and I've been kind of like a guinea pig for some homeopathic products that are supposed to like restore balance in your body sexually. So restoring moisture to your hoo-ha and really bring back like your libido and your sex drive and all of those things. Like I just want to feel like I'm 100%, and that like if I were to get into a relationship, like my body would be ready. And so I'm just doing all of those steps to kind of like get me there. One thing I started during my double mastectomy recovery was an antidepressant, and I got on Lexapro and I loved it. Like I was in such a crazy funk. There was days where I wanted to go out and be out in the world, but then when I was out in the world, I was just sad. And then I would come home and I was just sad being here because it just was a resemblance of treatment, because I was in my house 24/7 for chemo, and then I was laid up in my bed, trapped by my body for a double mastectomy for months, and I was just sad. So I got on an antidepressant, and Lexapro was great. There was very minimal side effects, but then the side effects that did happen were the inability to like finish sexually. And again, I'm not in a relationship, but you know, there's other things. So I knew, and I had talked to other friends who had been on Lexapro, and they're like, yeah, this is a huge issue. And so we actually got off of Lexapro. So I was like, okay, well, that's one thing I need to switch, and I need to like restore moisture to me. People had recommended going to a pelvic floor physical therapist. So I've like looked into that. So there's all these steps that I'm like, okay, I'm doing all of this as like steps to feel good. I started this supplement called Bonafide, and they have various products for women. And so I started these suppositories. They're hyaluronic acid suppositories that you use every 2 to 3 nights throughout the week. And it just brings moisture back into your body. And because if you don't have moisture, like you don't have estrogen, you don't have moisture there. But if you don't have moisture, you can like, your vagina can atrophy. And so it's really important that you still tend to those things. And it's important, you know, to go to pelvic floor physical therapy so that they can help prevent any atrophy. And so those have been great. It's been really, I'm noticing a difference, and I've been on them for like almost a month now. So it's been really great. And then I take their supplement called Reverie, which is to restore like your libido and all of that. So you take these 2 pills every day. So yeah, so fast forward to what I actually wanted to talk to you about is like dating during cancer. And this has been like crazy, right? Like I've been off the apps for a year, and I got back on like a month ago. And this entire time I've just been in my head like, should I be doing this? Should I not be doing this? Why am I doing this? Why am I doing this to myself? But then my other side is like, no, Amanda, like you need to put yourself out there. Like you need to stop letting fear hold you back from like happiness and finding a person, because the right person is going to totally understand. But also at the same time, I'm like, this is going to force me to be so vulnerable with a complete stranger and like really have them be on board with like what I'm going through. And so navigating that's really tough. But I've decided that I'm not going to tell someone about my breast cancer until I get to the point with someone where I feel like it's worth telling them. Like I don't need to tell someone on a first date, because who knows if I'm even going to like the person on a first date, you know? So it's like, okay, I'm feeling it out and I'm being intuitive on like, is this someone that I can feel safe enough with to trust? And so last night I went on a second date, and this guy was the first person that I told about breast cancer. And it was very scary. But I kind of wanted to tell you about what happened and how it was a really beautiful situation. And so I'll call this guy Sean. This was our second date. We actually went on our first date 2 days ago. And it was a coffee date. And then after that, he was like, I want to take you to dinner. So he planned a dinner date for 2 days later. So we met last night, and I could tell he was like a little nervous. And he had mentioned that he dealt with anxiety, but we didn't really dive into it. But I feel very comfortable with him. Like immediately we just were able to get into like super deep conversations and super weird conversations that you don't normally have on a first date. And I was like, I really like this vibe. I love this energy, because I'm like really weird, and I just always want to be talking about all of the things that people don't normally talk about. And he was the same. He was just a very curious, inquisitive person, and I love that because I am too. And so that was our first date. And so I knew last night, like going into it, like it was going to be fun, and it was going to be like enjoyable and good combos, and I would feel safe. But before I was going to dinner, when I was getting ready, those thoughts kept flooding in my brain. Like, Amanda, why are you doing this? Like, what is the point of all of this? Like, it was just all of the fear and the doubt and, you know, all of the things, my insecurities that were coming up, and I was like really struggling. But then I was also like, okay, I know that this is going to be fun. So you just like need to put yourself out there. And so I went, and yeah, like I said, I could tell he was a little bit nervous. The conversation was flowing. We were just talking about like weird ass shit. And then eventually he starts getting really vulnerable with me, and he's really talking to me about his anxiety and like how he struggled with panic attacks in the past, and how he was really nervous to come on this date because of his fear of having a panic attack, even though he hasn't had one for like a year. And he just really shared that with me, and I was like, thank you for sharing that and for feeling safe enough to tell me that. But in my head, while he was telling me all of these things, I was like, he's sharing all of this with me, and like I'm withholding so much information from him that I could really be connecting on with him, but I'm scared to tell him. Like, but prior to the date, I had this feeling that I was going to tell him. Like I said, I'm very intuitive, and it wasn't like, oh, I want to tell him. It was just like this knowing that I was like, I feel like I'm going to tell him. Like, I feel like we're just going to have that conversation. And so I felt it coming. And so when I was trying to relate with him on the panic attacks, I was telling him about my friends and my moms who had dealt with it, my mom who had dealt with it. And then I just kind of like ran out of things to say because I was having this internal struggle of, should I tell him what I'm really going through? And so I got to this point where I just got kind of weird, and I was fumbling all over my words. I couldn't make eye contact with him. And then I turned to him and I was like, I'm sorry, I'm being really weird right now. And I was like, do I tell him? Do I tell him? Do I tell him? And then I was like, you know what? I have something to tell you, and I'm really scared to tell you. But I had a feeling I was also going to tell you tonight because I just feel safe with you. And I told him, you know how I mentioned I hadn't been dating, and I just started dating again after like a year. It was like a year ago I was diagnosed with stage 2 breast cancer. So this past year I've just been undergoing treatment, and yeah, it's been really crazy. So this is my first time dating since then, and I just am trying to figure out how to like navigate all of that. And when I looked at him, his jaw was on the floor. And he was just like, wow. And I just was kind of being open and vulnerable and telling him the gist of like what's going on in my life. And then I paused, and he was just like, he looked at me and he was like, I feel like I'm going to cry. And he started getting tears in his eyes. And then of course that made me get tears in my eyes because like, this is just when I stop and really think about like what I've been through, I'm just like, wow, like I can't believe I got through that, and I'm getting through this, and I'm just really proud of myself. Oh, every time I think about it, I'm just like really proud of myself for doing this and still being positive and just getting through when the future is so like unknown. And so I kind of started crying a little bit, and it was really beautiful because then when I turned to him and I was like, why are you getting upset? And he goes, you are such a beautiful person. It just hurts my heart to know that you've been dealing with this and you've been battling this for a year. It just is so unfair. And I was like, thank you. Like, it was just the sweetest thing that someone could have said to me in that moment. And I felt so grateful that he held space for me when I was so scared to tell him. And I was so glad that he was the first person that I told, because it could have been really bad if I told someone and they weren't receptive to it. And so he just was asking me questions, and I was like, I'm such an open book, and it's really crazy that I'm not so forthcoming about it when it's been my entire life. It is my entire life, online and in person, and like, but I'm like holding this huge part of me back, and it just feels very weird and strange. So like, thank you for just being so loving and like warm for me. And so it was just really great. And I felt really great, and I just can tell that he is such a great person and such a loving person, and just a good person deep down. And I was just really grateful for that experience. So yeah, dating is hard and interesting, but I'm doing it so much differently than I've ever done before, and it feels good because I'm confident and I know what I want, and I'm being transparent on what I want, and I've never really been that way. I've always been kind of like a go with the flow kind of girl, even though deep down I really wanted a relationship. But with these guys, I'm just like, okay, look, this is what I want. And if you don't want that, that's totally fine. But like, you might not be the person for me. And it feels like I'm taking my power back. And it feels really great to be able to do that. So, yeah, I don't know. It's just like interesting. It's interesting because I've never had to navigate this before, and you don't have the playbook, and no one sits down and it's like, this is what you should do and this is how you do it. You just have to like do it. And so yeah, so that's been my dating. That's one date. I have another date, a third date with a guy tomorrow that I'm really excited to see. And I have a feeling I might tell him as well. And then I have a first date with someone the night after that. I got a lot of dinner dates this week, so thank the Lord I am not cooking, you know? But yeah, so that's a little update. I will hopefully keep filming more. I'm just really lazy. I love the filming. I just don't love the editing. It just takes a lot out of me. But yeah, thank you for being there. I know being here, and I know that there's some new people here. So thank you for being here and supporting me. And I hope to see you guys soon.